the last program in the series Time Out of Mind, which this week visits the World Science Fiction Convention held in Brighton this summer.
While the traditional British seaside pleasures of August Bank Holiday were taking their leisurely course on the beaches of Brighton, an event of a less familiar kind was taking place in the Metropole Hotel across the front.
Our chairman mentioned the rather chilling possibility that we are, after all, alone, that we are the only intelligent life, perhaps the only life at all in the universe, or at least in the galaxy. As a matter of fact, more and more scientists seem to be tending toward this pessimistic concept where a decade or so ago the fashion was all in the other direction. The evidence in either case seems to be much the same. Well, there are fashions in science, the same as there are fashions in everything else.
That's three, it means in the scale height of the galaxy you could put 3 empires, and in the galaxy as a whole you could put something in excess of 10,000 empires. Not touching.
There already is a pretty universal galactic civilization, perhaps quite a few of them interpenetrating. They are not right here for an excellent reason, statistical one. We live, of course, on solar energy, but very inefficiently.
And 100 yards away you may find the corpses, the bones, the shells of another colony that's died out because their little sulfur spring has perished. So these little islands of life occur in the deep sea, and I think they'll occur in space.
Britain is playing host to fans and writers from many countries in the 1979 World Science Fiction Convention. One of the 2 guests of honor is British writer Brian Aldiss.
The great Seacon has arrived at last. As you see, utopia is not an impossible concept after all. We've established it here in this hotel. When I went to my first British convention, I may tell you, things were very different. Well, the guest of honor was Jules Verne, for a start. Fan guest of honor, H.G. Wells. Because it was a very small convention. It was held in a telephone kiosk in Bromley, Kent.
It's a phenomenon unique in the literary world. Some 3,000 people are gathering in one hotel to indulge their collective fantasies. It's the start of 5 days of science fiction, lectures, films, plays, readings, and socializing way into the night. At the heart of it all is a rising tide of books, which may turn out to be the characteristic literature of 20th century technological society, exercising a powerful grip on the imagination of their readers. Writers Brian Aldiss and Frederick Pohl offer some reasons for the boom.
So the question is, what does science fiction do that ordinary literature doesn't do? Well, to answer that by talking about function, one thing it does is excite fans to hold science fiction conventions. Have you ever heard of the Jane Austen Convention, or the Iris Murdoch Convention, or the Graham Greene Convention? No. The ordinary novel was named novel because it had novelty. Well, I think that novelty is worn off, but that's what science fiction has. It has novelty, some would say in excess. But that, I think, is what attracts readers. They know they're going to read something new when they start on page 1.
There's a big distinction to be made between the inner space kind of science fiction and the hard science, hardware sort, but I think the best kind is what embodies all of these things, that marvelous sense of romance, of traveling into gloriously strange places elsewhere in the universe, and the ability to think of what science can do for us, what technology may do to change our lives, and the insights into the people, what may happen to people as a result of all this. And the best science fiction fuses them all.
Most utopias are terribly boring. Why? Because nothing naughty happens in a utopia. And science fiction is always full of naughty things happening. You may think science fiction writers are for technology, and I think that from the top of our heads we're for technology, but underneath that we fear it. So that things are always going wrong in science fiction novels.
There's a lot of fear of science, and I think science fiction is a marvelous prophylactic against future shock. If you read enough science fiction, nothing's ever going to catch you by surprise. When the atomic bomb fell on Hiroshima, there were about 75 nuclear physicists who knew what happened and 100,000 science fiction readers. None of them were surprised by it at all.
I cannot understand how ordinary civilized people don't go out and read science fiction.
Presiding over this 5-day party is Convention Chairman Peter Weston.
We started the thing rolling in 1974. Myself and one or two members of my team decided we wanted the convention. We had to get across to America, where it really all happens, and convince the Americans that we were a serious contender for the convention. So we went over to the World Convention in Washington in 1974 and made a preliminary bid. In fact, it was what we called a preemptive strike, because we knew we had to knock out an American city, and we wanted to start as soon as we could before they got off the ground, you see. So we delivered a pretty strong attack in 1974 for the 1979 convention. And in fact, I managed to get all the Chicago people to sign up to support us, thus completely diffusing them. If we hadn't done that and they'd have gone for it, they would have got it.
Thanks a lot.
Having succeeded in winning the bid, the committee's next task was securing the presence of a whole galaxy of celebrities. Writers like joint guest of honor Fritz Lieber make a captive target for autograph hunters. But conventions also provide real opportunities for fans to make contact with their idols.
All right. This first edition too. I thought first edition. Oh, American one. Yes. Smuggle in though now.
No, I bought it at Dark Day Word, which is a bookstore in London that specializes. Well, all right.
Whose is this one? Yours? Same again? Where'd you want it? There?
Have you read it yet?
Yeah.
Oh, you laughed, you cried.
Oh, yeah.
You wept all the way to the...
Thank you.
Right.
It just means space guns and funny suits and things like that. It's appalling how ignorant I am about science fiction, but I can see now, just by being here at a convention, that this is a collection of very, very bright people. I bet you somebody here could probably draw you a map of how to get to Krypton. You know, you sort of go to the Milky Way and turn left and then keep going, you know.
And our job is to do, as all popular television is to do the alchemy of transforming quite ordinary material and trying to make it into something quite extraordinary. A bit like life, really. Yeah.
There had been many ideologies here, and a various collection of moralities, but only one religion, at least in the last many millennia. There was only room for one when its living God rested among the children all the days of their lives, and awoke to smite or favor when it chose.
21. 22. 22. 23 I've got. 24 I've got. 25. 25 I've got.
A little crowded to work the system.
27 I've got.
29.
29 I've got. 33. Rotate.
My name is Theodore Sturgeon. I wrote a novel. It's called Some of Your Blood. I've been promulgating for a long time that science fiction is not only about outer space, but about inner space. And here indeed you do see an exploration of inner space in a rather remarkable way.
Next day I joined the army. There's a lot of people say that the army's no good. That's because a lot of people don't know what's good for them. I liked it there, you know. I learned how to become a mechanic. Come time for home leave, you know, I didn't even leave the camp. I just hung around the place. Then even that went wrong. They sent me abroad. I didn't like it. I missed the woods. Most of all, I missed Anna. One day we was on this airstrip doing some drilling, you know, and this airplane come in with a load of casualties, and me and a load of blokes was told to take them over to the hospital. I remember looking down at them and thinking, God Christ, I don't want to end up like that, you know, I want out of this army.
Luckily, they decided to let us off with keeping they gave us breakfast.
As well as the programmed items, more spontaneous events take place in the fan room, the focal point of fandom, where their own magazines or fanzines are on display.
There's also, have you mentioned hectographs? Hectograph is a peculiar thing with a whole lot of jelly inside it. The thing is that they only cost about £1.50, and it is by far and away the cheapest way to produce a fanzine. And there's an American fanzine that's nowadays produced on hector, and you can get very colourful effects in it. It's quite good, but it's a real amateur sport producing something like that.
Yeah, and if you handle it well, you can do very good things. Because there's some people at the Polytechnic of Central London who produce, and it sounds nuts, but they produce recipes once a month on a hectograph. Yeah, I know, they've got a cookery class there, and they have this little fan green. It's a 6-page thing done in 4 colours on a hectograph. Absolutely well, brilliantly done.
This is trying to be professional. I mean, a fanzine should be an amateur publication. Well, that tries to be somewhat professional.
Yeah, it looks professional, and does it turn people off?
That's an amateur way. I mean,
well,
we should be ashamed for it.
I mean, look,
a lot of fanzines are about gossip and individual people in fandom. They're very rarely about science fiction at all. A professional magazine isn't quite as scurrilous as a fanzine. I mean, if you want to know real stuff about authors, you may be able to find it out in a fanzine. Not so much in a professional one. They can get sued, but we haven't got any money, so we're okay.
This is the Journal of the Tolkien Society. And I mean, that is what I call a real pro-zine. I mean, it's all beautifully typed by one typist. We commission the artwork, and there's a rather beautiful illustration there. No, this is not an advertising session.
Well, show a typical amateurish fanzine then too.
This is much more the sort of...
as well, which is, I mean, that...
Yeah, they're very similar.
Very well produced.
Yeah.
And that is duplicating.
Yeah, exactly.
And this convention has, like, differences from American conventions. And in particular, this room here. You don't have a function like this at an American convention. A fan room is something that just people who don't know any place else to go come to. And here it's a real gathering spot.
The Worldcon here in Brighton is different. This is my second Worldcon. The last one was in Phoenix, in that there's a little more formal programming and also perhaps a different attitude towards the parties and that sort of thing.
I think that there's been also some more serious programming. A professor standing up there talking about science fiction, and don't see a whole lot of that in the States. I think a little less serious sometimes.
I think it's come because it's nice to meet hundreds of people who are mad as mad in science fiction as you are, or just as mad as you are. This particular convention, I've been to hardly any program items at all. I prefer to come into this room, which is the fan room, and mix and meet with people. Occasionally we go off to a program item somebody particularly interested in, but normally I don't go to them at all. I tend to buy a fair bit. I don't get into reading it for ages and ages and ages. I think you'll find there's most science fiction fans that buy, they all have big collections. They won't read them. They just put them on the shelves. Yeah.
There are quite a few American writers who are here purely to sell books, but there are quite a lot of British writers who started as fans, became writers and carry on coming to conventions purely as fans.
I don't think that's true, really. I mean, obviously, if that's their lifeblood, they've got to sell books. You know, one doesn't you know, one can't resent that in any way at all. But as Steve said, a lot of the British writers started off as fans, and they genuinely do enjoy the fanish side of goings-on at conventions, and they mix. So, you know, there's no split at all, I don't think, between the two.
Well, it's I think, largely two levels. It's them and us. We come to see our friends, they come to see their friends, and there's a little bleed across the interface. You know, sometimes quite a lot, sometimes more than we want, or more than we need. But certainly we don't come here primarily for the purpose of encountering the readers. We do it anyway, and it's very interesting.
American writer Bob Silverberg. Brian Aldiss continues.
It's a tribal right. That's what you must remember, first of all. This is very much a part of the history of science fiction fandom. And fandom is something you can't detach from science fiction. You know, in the old days, the kings would give feasts for their serfs. In science fiction, we're much more democratic. The serfs give the feasts for the kings.
Well, it is a business convention, just like doctors or Hoover salesmen would have. We meet the editors, the publishers, and each other. And there's a lot of business being conducted, a lot of contacts made and renewed and firmed up. That's a reality, and it all happens in a context that's pleasant.
That was Thomas M. Dish. The pleasant context of Regency Brighton's Royal Pavilion was used for a trade cocktail party held by the publishing firm Gollancz, who have a large science fiction list.
What is this all about? I see Asimov. Especially the twinkle in his eye. Judy, what is this incomprehensible document you've handed me?
It's an R in the Cyrillic language.
Okay, this I suppose is...
the Greek alphabet.
R-A... Robert.
MP is pronounced book. Robert.
Heinlein.
Sheckley. No.
Heinlein. Stanislaus, then. That's it.
Whenever you go up St. George's Road...
You just continue till you come to...
He had a hood underneath attached to an anorak, pulled around his face with big gloves, and he kept flexing his hands, and he asked where the science fiction was. But
you get the very serious end as well.
Yes,
he speaks French, she writes French, you know, and they never meet. They're in the same place at the same time.
I'm not a feminist, but by the time I finish the first chapter, I am.
Yeah, some books would do that to you.
Yeah, no, it's terrible. I keep insisting he's a good writer.
You get to the States often?
We started up a business there now, in Milwaukee.
Milwaukee, that's too far. Yeah. You ever get in through Florida, which is where I live now?
Yeah, you live down in Florida, do you?
I live just outside of Palm Beach.
Uh-huh.
I came to London after France, and everybody was in Los Angeles.
I see.
So I came back to London now, because now everybody is here. I finally got it together.
Brighton offers an appropriate setting for flights of fancy. And as the summer night descends around the Metropole Hotel, the fans get ready for another convention ritual.
Have you registered yet?
Yes.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any special lighting? Yeah. Okay, what's your number, Adrian? I have no idea. Peggy had my form. Came in late because I couldn't get a form.
Here you go, you're number 41.
Thank you.
You want to check anything with us?
We'll just staple it. Not right this minute, but then I'll try. You want What are the advantages of being Taylor Brown? Nothing ever happens
Nothing
to you.
ever happened to her, that's it.
Quite. I still wish I had my 7-foot tall cousin with me.
The galaxy exploding anyway. I mean, you know, what does he get us?
That's true, yes. Her number was what? Well, I don't know. She didn't give it to me. The one who gave us this bag. Oh, 5. 5? Was 5.
I think it's 4 or 5.
Mandy Dakin?
Yes.
Okay, fine, thank you.
Come and have a picture taken with us. So? Okay. We're moving forward, girls.
Photographers are requested not to publish any photograph of the subject.
I'll check your head. It's about as far as I can go. Oh, it's not starting. Time to talk to
What, please? Shut up! What? Hey! What? Shut up! Could all contestants move behind that screen and into Hall 1 if necessary, except the lady with the 15-foot wings?
Masters, Angela Elms Neal. Number 4, Michelle Gray of Marie from the Faded Sun, Kesret. Next, Susan Moore, D84, Doctor Who. 18, George Scottmiller. 16, Nancy Floyd, Gary, JL and Magda. 24, 25, 26, 27, Patricia, Stephanie, Theodore, Lionel Fanthorpe, the slave trader from Ramos.
I wanted it to be a British World Convention, not just a copy of the Americans. I wanted to use some of the rather special traditions we have in Britain. Some of them perhaps a little bit silly, I don't know, like a cricket match on the beach. That's just one example, but a flavour of being British, which I think we've succeeded in doing. I also wanted to make it a damn good convention. I wanted people to go away saying, my God, that was a good convention. That was better than the American conventions. And again, it's perhaps wrong of me to say, but I'm too involved, but I really think we have succeeded in that as well. And there's a tremendous satisfaction for me personally in hearing that sort of comment. You know, there's no power, there's no money, there's nothing much in it for me except personal achievement. I have handled a convention, I've recruited a team of people together, and together we've processed, if that's the word, something like 5,500 people. And those that have come along, which is over 3,000, have enjoyed it. And that's something, not everyone can say they've done that.
Up the Walls of the World by James Tiptree, Jr.
The climax of the convention is the presentation of a long list of Hugo Awards, culminating in the award for the year's Best Science Fiction Novel.
And the winner is Dream Snake.
Thank you very much. It's too complicated to explain why I wrote this book because of Avram Davidson, but I did. And I think he's one of the most underappreciated writers we've got, and we should all go out and buy his books. Thank you.
Well, that's it, folks. Nothing else now but just drinking and dancing and all that kind of stuff. I'd just like to say that the people who have the nominees can come up here and pick up their illuminated certificates.